All right, so without further ado, let's give it over to Jim. He's going to talk about his awesome product, Cascader.
All right, what's up, guys? How we feeling today?
Good.
You guys got pizza in your hands. Can't clap. All right. So my name's Jim. I'm the founder and CEO of Cascader. So we're trying to do some cool stuff with AI and Bitcoin. And tonight I'm going to kind of show you the fundamentals of Lightning and of AI. So you kind of have a baseline, and then kind of show you where we're trying to take it and what we're trying to do for human liberty. Because I believe that what we're doing at Cascader is sort of like the Space Force of Liberty. It's a new frontier. It's kind of not well understood, but we're building technology that we feel is essential to, to building a future that has liberty and isn't, a digital panopticon. All right, so back to what I was saying. We're gonna do a brief overview of the basics of Lightning, the basics of AI, and how they dovetail.
What's Lightning?
Yeah, that's what we're going to get into right now. It's the first thing. Perfect segue. So we're going to do a Lightning Network crash course. So how many people here have used the Lightning Network? About 10 people here. It's about half the people have used the Lightning Network. This guy's used it, but he's an OffSec. Okay. So what exactly is the Lightning Network? It's a channels-based payment network. So the idea is that peers lock up Bitcoin, UTXOs, or you can think of UTXOs like bills that assign ownership to a particular private key. So we lock up channels, and then we can route payments between channels to get to a destination. So a very simple example is I can have a channel with Jason and his node that he was promoting earlier. Then he could have a channel with somebody sitting at the back over here. And then if I want to pay somebody in the back, if I don't know them, I can pay them. Suppose they have a channel that can add on infinitum. And so the idea is it helps scale Bitcoin, makes payments cheaper. You don't have to settle everything on chain. You're not limited by the 10-minute block times.
Is it like the Visa network, but without the central?
I don't know exactly how the Visa network works. Somebody asked me if that's how the Visa network works. I actually don't know exactly how the Visa network works, but it's like a bunch of bar tabs with abacus beads. So the other thing you got to keep in mind is there's inbound and outbound. So if I offer my UTXO to Jason, then I only can send money through Jason. Now, thanks to the great works people like Nifty have done, there's something called dual funded channels where we can both agree, okay, I'll put a tenth of a Bitcoin in, you put a tenth of a Bitcoin in. Now we have channel both ways, but generally speaking, the status quo is I just offer my UTXO, I open with Jason. That's the end of the story. So now I can only send money, not receive it. So I have to find a way to get.
But then if I open up a channel with you, then
right, exactly, and then it becomes both ways, right? So it's decentralized. It's peer-to-peer payments. Yeah, it's peer-to-peer payments. It's good privacy. We'll get into all that. So, this is like a good visual. So, like as I was describing before, if I'm Alice and I want to send money to Eric, then I can go through Bob, Carol, Diana, and then Eric. And it's as long as I have, as long as there's the pipes are big enough, the channel liquidity is big enough, that I can send all that money through, and then that changes the state of all of the abacus beads. So you just got to be mindful of that. So that's one of the challenges of running a Lightning node is you got to they call it liquidity management. You just got to make sure that you're aware of where your liquidity is and that you top up and settle on chain and come back between your piggy bank and the Lightning network. So this is a graphic of what the Lightning network looks like. So you see it's this big, galaxy of nodes. They're all opening channels with each other and paying each other. Technically speaking, there is no one Lightning network. That's actually something people don't realize. There could be a Lightning network where they don't associate with anybody else. It's just a private Lightning network. There could be a private pool of Lightning networks, but it's a great way to, with low fees and good privacy, send Bitcoin to one another. And so, as I mentioned, there's a lot of advantages. The first is low fees because you're not settling on chain. You don't have to pay the miners' fees. It's just routing fees, which generally speaking are pretty low. If you're spending tens of thousands of sats, generally speaking, it's in the 50 to 100 sats range, so it's not bad. High resolution, so you can send small amounts. You can even stream, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sats. It's instantly and cryptographically provable payments, so that's fantastic. You don't really have to wait on confirmation times like you do on the base chain, and it takes a few seconds tops usually to confirm transactions. And then because of that, cryptographically provable payments, you have privacy because nobody needs to know who you are to accept the payment. This is very unique from the fiat system. The fiat system, you swipe your card, your private key's on there, your name's on there, your home address is on there. When you use Bitcoin, all there is I got the magic ticket to this payment, and that's all you need to know. You don't need to know anything else. So that's a really good thing about privacy. So that's a key aspect we'll play on later. So that's a quick lightning overview. Does anybody have any questions before I continue?
What's
Carr?
your favorite lightning wallet?
My favorite lightning wallet is Zeus. Zeus does a really good job of kind of balancing, flexibility and technical aptitude levels, and just great integration. So hats off to Evan. We did the podcast with him in Atlanta, or not Atlanta, in Nashville. Great job to him. Love the Zeus wallet. So if you're needing a wallet, go ahead and check out Zeus. So now we're going to get into a quick AI crash course. So AI is a buzzword. It's in the news all the time. What the hell do we even mean by AI? And I'd say AI is actually much older than people realize. This is what we're at right now is the culmination of decades of research. And it really fundamentally what AI is a transcendence of algorithm or rules-based programming limitations. So typically when you learn programming, in school 10, 20 years ago, it was, if this, then that, it's rules based. It's essentially that. I mean, there's more nuances obviously, but it's more or less rules based. But the problems with that type of, and it's great for a lot of things, right? We can run a lot of infrastructure. We can send people to the moon on rules based programming, but it has limitations, namely that it's not great at language. It's not great at facial recognition or object recognition, and it's brittle. It doesn't, it has to stay within a, if you ever played a video game and you've gotten outside the map or done weird glitchy stuff, it's because it's not, the software isn't flexible. It's built for a specific design range that the designer had in mind, and it's not flexible. And so, as humans, we're good at these things. We're good at language. We're good at facial recognition. We needed this to survive. We're good at being flexible. So the computer looks kind of dumb to us when it fails to, accomplish these things. It's really hyper specialized in certain areas. But there's been recently, in the last few years, there's been breakthroughs in neural nets and LLMs that transcend these limitations and kind of expand our expectation of what we think AI is capable of. So the AI revolution that we're going through now is largely driven by large language models. So what we've discovered is there's breakthroughs in terms of research and techniques, and also just having mass scale infra. A lot of what's been discovered is if you just throw enough parameters, you scrape enough of the internet, you're going to be able to take these neural nets and have a good enough understanding of language that they're going to be able to do some things you were never able to do before. So the result is just a model, an AI machine that is good at understanding human language, but under the hood, it's just autocorrect. I know that's hard to believe when you see a sophisticated ChatGPT response that is just autocorrect. It's just predicting the next word, and that's something to keep in mind. It's not truly reasoning for itself. It's just the next thing. Go ahead.
Can you explain that like on 10? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so when you're typing a text message to someone, when you're typing, you notice that I think on most operating systems it'll try to predict your next word, and it's not bad, but a lot of the times it's totally off base from what you would normally say. Imagine if it could perfectly predict what you were trying to say, right? That's effectively what the LLM is. And now imagine instead of it being kind of dumb like it is in your phone, it's really smart to the level where it can give you expert advice on the latest legal proceedings in the Supreme Court. Those are the types of things it's capable of at this point, because it's imbibed the entire internet. So it's about as smart as some pretty smart people on the internet. I wouldn't call them the smartest, but they're pretty smart. So it has a good understanding of human language in general. Go ahead.
I had an understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that AI kind of grew from search engines. Like or used a lot of.
Yeah, so
over the years, the search engines developed and they.
right. So the people that can't hear, someone just asked, did the AI grow from search engines? Yes, certainly that's a huge trove of data, right? The whole job of a search engine is to do what's called crawling the internet and finding in what are called indices. It indexes the internet to find interesting points in the internet. That's how Google dunked on all the competitions. They're just better at that than everyone else. And that is a great trove of AI information. Now, what's interesting to me is that Google in particular has kind of dropped the ball. You can kind of see them ossifying in real time. Personally, I know they can't really maintain basic APIs anymore, and they're kind of getting surpassed by OpenAI. So you kind of wonder if there's new kids on the block. We think about the empire cycle in terms of nation states. I would argue the same holds true for companies as well. If you look at the IBMs of the world, they were literally the 800-pound gorilla. If they didn't like you, they could just squash you, right? Back in the 60s, 50s, right? That's changed, right? There's been numerous cycles of empire birth and death since then. And Google looked pretty strong 10, 15 years ago. Now they're looking kind of weak in my eyes. I mean, we're streaming on a Google platform. Don't have me taken out back here, but that's my opinion.
But do we want ChatGPT to take over?
We absolutely don't, and so that's kind of the crux of my point. Go ahead, Gar.
I was going to ask you, do you think the Bitcoin space is kind of like that, where the block streams and the mining labs?
Do I think the Bitcoin space is like that? I think any system is gonna tend to have their good old boys and have human tendencies to try to centralize. But generally speaking, I think, especially Bitcoin, but other ecosystems that are innovative are better about not just resting on laurels, not just grandfathering people in. Time will tell. Truthfully, my opinion doesn't matter on this. Okay, so we went through what are AI, what is the AI. So truthfully, the backbone of an LLM is a neural network. So just going through like a very basic example, a neural network is a biomimicry device. It's mimicking biological systems, and effectively what it's doing is trying to map an input to an output. So given I have this input, and this is what the output means. So in this case, I have a drawing of something, and I'm trying to figure out what number is it. That's what this very simple example is, and it has these are called matrices. They're also called perceptrons. They're effectively layers of neurons that identify different features of the thing that's drawn and tries to interpret what is the meaning. Okay, so this is a very simple example. You could abstract this to anything. It's not just images. You could do it with audio. It could try to identify what a sound sounds like. It could try to identify what types words mean. It could do images as it does in this case. So now applying that principle, there's LLMs are essentially very very large scale neural networks. So in these couple of cases, you have, as I said, an image. So it's trying to identify the subject of an image. It has all these tunable parameters. It's just like this magical black box, you could think of it as. It's like a system of equations, which is what a matrix is. It's called a transformer, and it pushes it through, and it's able to identify that's a coffee mug because it's seen enough coffee mugs to identify that. Generally speaking, that's the most important thing in this image.
It doesn't have to be exact.
It doesn't have to be exact. It's flexible, and it does heuristics instead of algorithms. So that's, if you're going to take one thing away, an algorithm is like a rule. If this, then that. A heuristic, truthfully, this heuristic is many tiny algorithms made at scale to make a heuristic. In a sense, it is, because computers can't. There's no real viable analog computers at this moment. So they're all digital fundamentally. So they have to make a decision left or right. But at scale, they use heuristics. So same can be said for text, right? So as I stated earlier, the medium doesn't particularly matter. It's just you have a model that's good at a particular thing. Sometimes it's good at mapping images to to subjects. Sometimes it's good at mapping text to subjects, sometimes audio to subjects, right? It can be anything. And this other model takes text that's put in, this looks like Victorian literature to me, and then it extracts the subject, which is somebody's daughter, okay? So this is the basic principle through which LLMs work. So because of these mathematical techniques, we've got the ability to quantize language. And the interesting thing about that means that we can actually measure the distance between things. We can measure the similarity between things. What that means is if I ask the same question, if I ask a question to ChatGPT, and it's similar in meaning to what Jason asks, then it's going to give us virtually the same answer because it's able to deal with the fact that the language we use was totally different. I'm from the North, he's from the South. He has a different way of speaking, but it knows that fundamentally speaking, the meaning is the same because it maps the language to the mathematical representation of the meaning. So this is a very simple example, a little bit grim, but it's kind of funny. If you do Hitler, these are all vectors. So these are points in space. These are the mathematical, the tips of these arrows are mathematical representations of meaning. And in this case, if I do Hitler plus Italy minus Germany, it's going to come up with Mussolini, which is interesting because that makes sense, right? They're both dictators from different countries. So that's the type of thing you can do. And that's fascinating because that means now this whole space of language that was inaccessible to machines, I would say even as far as 10 years ago, I wouldn't say it was inaccessible, but even 10, 20 years ago, it just wasn't where it is now. Now you can, ask these questions, and as I pointed out earlier, it's auto correcting. So it's doing math and figuring out what the next word ought to be. Not only can it answer your question, and not only can it take in your question and interpret the meaning of your question, it can also figure out what it ought to send you back based on these mathematical principles.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't know you knew all this stuff.
Does this make sense?
You sound more credible than I thought. This whole time.
He just hears me popping off against the government and saying crazy stuff. But yeah, so what does all this mean, right? Like we just went Giga Galaxy Brain, the fundamentals of AI. What does it all mean? What it means is that now machines have a grasp of human language. So that opens a whole new frontier. And there's tons of use cases. There's customer service. There's law. I know somebody that just wrote a contract that was pretty sophisticated. Somebody I know, they leased their BMW to get the royalty rights of a rapper, which is kind of funny, kind of random, but it worked. You can use it to write code. So code fundamentally is sort of like a form of language. You can do translation. And then also on the dark side, there's surveillance and probably psyops going on with this stuff. So it's good to know that this stuff's possible and what the telltale signs of AI are. But in the face of all this complexity, I think the biggest thing you should take away is there's a huge productivity boom. There's a huge opportunity for you to find ways to scale up your ability to do work. Like I know some people, there's somebody at the back that I know, has commented specifically on how, their business has been helped by this because their productivity has gone up significantly because of AI. So I think that's kind of what I'm focused on at CASCDR is taking that experience and making it more accessible to the individual.
So you're powering like small businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've been mostly technical. We've been sort of bullish. Let's kind of get into some of the issues with AI. So I would say the first is privacy, because every data that you give to an AI system that knows your identity can be used against you at some point, whether that's by a mega corporation or by the government. You need to be hyper aware of this, and you need to be very serious about protecting your privacy. You should be using VPNs, and you should be using the Lightning Network, and we'll explain how that can help your privacy at scale. The second problem is centralization. So, we're already seeing attempts at regulatory capture. We're seeing these OpenAI people go to DC and say, the boogeyman is going to come, the AI boogeyman is going to come take us, so make sure that none of our startup competitors can compete with us. And we have the license to run these large models. So there's that. And then also just like the more mundane hoarding tools and private secrets that, over time can create a huge power differential. That's not, in my opinion, is also not safe.
Do you think it's possible where everything that we know in the world, whether it's like video camera footage, in a town or like all ends up getting eaten by this AI that could be?
Do I think it could be eaten by this AI? You're basically describing the plot of Eagle Eye, right?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Impossible 6.
Well, so I think it's certainly possible, right? I think first off, even if the participants at the grassroots level were unwilling, there's a possibility that an AI gets really good at hacking and gets really good at exploiting systems. Or as you point out, they could voluntarily sell it. It's totally possible. I think you should prepare for the worst, hope for the best. It's totally possible, and you should be protecting your privacy as best you can. This is one of the reasons that this is one of our core values at CASCDR is privacy. So moving on from centralization, there's also just antisocial ends in general, right? Somebody could figure out how to engineer a bomb in their basement and do something terrible with it. There could be state level actors that can use it to make people go crazy or do things they wouldn't normally do, right? So I think fundamentally on each of these fronts, Bitcoin is a major tool in helping solve these problems, and I'll get into why in a second.
Already being used in the battlefield as well, right?
100%, yeah. Jason, the military guy, pointing out, even in Israel right now, they're using it to identify, bad actors, and they're often wrong. I know that like one of Jose Andres, one of the aid groups got shot, even though they were clearly marked. So this stuff's already being used. So there's something to be very aware of, and I don't want to be a doomer because I fundamentally think that as long as we stay vigilant and we voice our opinions, fundamentally we're good people, and that we'll be able to push back on some of this bad stuff. But we need to stay vigilant. We can't just go to sleep. We can't just let some oligarch take the wheel here. We have to take personal responsibility for voicing what we believe in, and also in supporting what we believe in financially, I would say. So all I had to say, CASCDR, I just want to share with you our mission statement. Our mission statement is to use AI and Bitcoin to empower the individual, help users get the most out of the productivity gains from AI, to enrich their lives while preserving their privacy and respecting their beliefs, wishes, and sovereignty. And furthermore, we want to empower and decentralize a network of innovators that can create value in the AI space and earn money accordingly. So, protecting the buyer, their sovereignty, their privacy, their best interests. On the flip side, creating a marketplace where talented entrepreneurs can earn money for producing high value AI services.
Yeah, and if you're running a business, I mean, you want to be very concerned about privacy because, if you're trying to create a product to fit the market, for example, you don't want your competitors to know about that, right?
Of course.
All these AI
Yeah, there's numerous levels to this. There's the business level, and then there's like almost like a personal safety level to all of this, certainly. And so, this whole preamble, I'm going to show you how it kind of dovetails into AI and Lightning. So what is CASCDR? CASCDR is a service where you can individually use services. So I have a ChatGPT proxy that you just pay with Lightning. So you maintain your anonymity and you're able to use the state-of-the-art LLM models used by ChatGPT. I have a image identification system, so you can identify images, and all of these are APIs that are useful to they're useful to humans, but they're also usable by machines and software automated systems if you choose. And then also just being able to like generate images. So these are just very simple building blocks and examples, and then we remix them into different ways that allow us to create value that isn't necessarily obvious right off first rip. So, I'm going back to this slide again on the Lightning Network. Each of these properties helps us in different ways. So because they're low fees and we can have high resolution, you don't have to pay us a $20 a month subscription. If you just want to ask us one question, we can charge you, a fraction of a cent or even $1 or $1 even a cent to get that information quickly, right? And then the flip side of that is you have great privacy because all we need to know is for you to show us the receipt of you paid that thing. We don't need to know who you are. So you can ask that question. There are many cases where suppose you want to ask a legal question, but you're not comfortable putting that in your search history, right? You could come to CASCDR in a private window, hook up your Lightning wallet, ask the question, and then you're done.
Right. You still want to be careful though about providing too much identifiable
Of course, absolutely, and
but
and
you're gonna
I'm the first to say that, but
proxy, right?
yeah, you would use VPNs, and there's levels to this, but I would say first and foremost, like Google is just going to reveal everything about you. ChatGPT is going to reveal everything about you, so we're able to shield your privacy in this way on a very basic level. So.
Aren't you going to have any trouble if you're going to be answering, like you're going to be like a mediator between the user who asks that illegal question and?
Well, I would argue we're in the United States. There's no such thing as an illegal question. So worst case scenario is it's relevant in a criminal case, and the truth is I won't know anything about you, and I'd like to keep it that way. And if I don't know anything about you, then it's
protected, right?
Yeah.
So you just like.
Yep. So
I'm just like a pipe. I pass down the
Yep.
waters and like what's in that water?
Yep.
I have no idea, right?
Yep. And they might come back to me and say, hey, I want to know who asked this question. I'm going to say I have no idea because A, it's none of my business, and B, the system is designed to not collect that information. I think that's how the world ought to be. I think that where we've gotten to with digital service.
Don't be evil, right?
Yeah, fundamentally speaking, if you pay with a Bolt 11 invoice, you have sender privacy. The best case scenario for the state trying to prove the case against you is they would have to do like intense timing analysis on the Lightning network, plus somehow get the pre-image, which I don't save in my servers. They have to get like so much information that it would be a very weak case, best case scenario for them. So that's the truth. My advice is don't do anything blatantly illegal, but if you have questions you're not comfortable having a paper trail of, then come to CASCDR because we got you.
And wouldn't Bolt 12 improve upon this as well?
Bolt 12 would not make a difference because it has sender privacy already, so they're both great. So we're already kind of talking about this, like going down the list. So the privacy, because Bolt 11 has great sender privacy, it doesn't have good receiver privacy. You'll know that I'm the one that received the payment, but that doesn't matter because I'm not the one that asked the question. All I need is the money, and you can go on about your way. Okay, so it solves the privacy problem, the centralization problem. So there's easy payment tools. So
I'm sorry, but what is
Bolt 11 is, if you've ever paid a Lightning invoice, it's probably Bolt 11. It starts with LNBC, blah, 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 and it specifies the exact amount of Bitcoin that you're asking for. So the seller generates an invoice that specifies the amount, the location, which is your public key, which it's a QR code. And the expiry time, because you have to agree with the other nodes in the network. This is how long this liquidity is locked up. Don't move this. Generally speaking, now it is. And so Jason brought up a good point. Bolt 12 improves privacy. That's mostly for senders, because what it does is it obfuscates the public key that's receiving the funds. So now both sender and receiver are fundamentally private. So did that answer your question well? Okay. Okay, so we covered privacy. The other point that I'd argue is that it helps solve centralization because we have easy payment tools. So what we just described, we've released open source APIs. All you have to do is plug in your ChatGPT key and your Lightning address, and you can just run a server that will proxy other people's servers. So we don't want to be the only ones. We're not interested in being the only ones, and Other people that want to run the software can absolutely do so. The third advantage is you're economizing, so you only pay as you go. So, I ask a few questions, I pay a few cents. I don't have to pay $20 a month, which is about $1 a day. That adds up quick. So that's another one. And then the last that's kind of underrated is interoperability. So we're focused at the moment on this one very particular small case of using ChatGPT, but truthfully, where we want to go, I would say as Bitcoiners, but also as Cascader, is to create a system of AI agents that are acting on your behalf that are capable of using multiple tools like this, not just ChatGPT, but other tools, and pay in Bitcoin on your behalf so they can actually accomplish a meaningful task. And the hope there is that this will enhance privacy and the usefulness of AI systems in a way that's not really possible when you only have one monolithic system that's designed by one small R&D team in California. Okay. Any questions before I continue?
Can you give us an example of like what the agent space looks like?
Yeah, so the agent space is pretty nascent right now, and so the big buzzwords and terms right now are function calling, which is essentially, as we mentioned earlier, the LLMs are a good core module because they have a great understanding of human language. So what you can do is actually prompt the LLM with information about different functions or tools that it can use. In other words, I could say, "Hey LLM, here's how you call an API that has all the flights in the world, and here's an API you can call that has the weather, and here's the API of like my calendar. Go find me a good flight to fly on where it's sunny and not raining in the next 3 weeks," and it can go do something like that with those types of tools. That would be like a relatively straightforward example. There's much more specialized examples that I would argue have much more import in terms of economics and business for just helping people automate a process or even, basically get rid of a job in a sense or make somebody's job 3x what it normally would be. That answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. So you're saying like it could, if I wanted to book a flight here in the next 3 weeks, it could wait to pay for.
I can't guarantee the quality of that because I haven't done it myself yet. That's one of the things that's one of the directions I'm going to push in the coming month. But one of the problems with these systems, we talked about how the input's fuzzy. It can take multiple different questions that are different and come out with generally the same answer. With that, the double-edged sword of that is it is non-deterministic, which means the output can be fuzzy. It can give you a crazy Ivan and just totally like misfire too. So I can't give you a guarantee that that'll work unless I built it myself, and I will build these, and I will build highly reliable, highly useful AI agents. That's one of my next big pushes.
So it could theoretically, yeah, when that gets created, it could find a flight to Mexico City.
That would be one. That would be one example. It could do a lot more than that. That might be one of the more trivial examples. Okay. And so at Cascader, as we pointed out, as I just discussed, there's, this function calling is an essential component. These LLMs are an essential component, but so is actually creating these modules. And the way I see these modules is they're almost just like how we were talking about on the Lightning Network. The more nodes you have in the network, the more valuable it becomes. The more modules that we have available to the agents at runtime, the more that they can accomplish. And so the more useful they are. So at Cascader, each of these tools that we've created, they're useful to humans on day one. Generally speaking, we'll build a front end, like a website that people can visit to use these tools. But then we also build them into more sophisticated applications where, say, we automatically chain multiple ones together. We have an interface builder where you can actually physically chain them together, like as a user. And in the long run, you're going to deputize an LLM or an agent to look at these tools, say, here's your toolkit, here's what I want you to do, go do it. And it'll be able to figure that out. And we think that's just a massive boon of productivity as long as it's done correctly it can be a massive boost to the individual. Because if you think about it, what import does it have to a mega corporation or big government if they get one or two more employees? It's not that big of an impact, right? If you're a solo entrepreneur, you just got one or two new employees, you're 200% more productive, right? So I think this can be an edge for the individual, which is why I'm bullish on AI and which is why I'm passionate about this.
What's that non-CPM delivery? What's that?
I just have a module that all it does is you send text that you want to send and sign it, and then we send it out for you.
Real quickly, how's your battery on?
It's good. You wanted this back? Yeah. Yeah. No problem. No, we're good. I'm probably talking.
Hypothetically, this is kind of out there, but could you do something like where you have like an AI business that's fully like there's no humans?
Yeah.
Straight around the
So
world?
somebody's asking me about an AI business. Have I ever done this? I've actually ran this by Keon from Stacker News. He thought it was actually a good idea. He's usually pretty critical of new ideas. I would say if they're too crazy. He's open-minded, but he'll give it to you straight in a good way. I'm not criticizing him. I ran an idea like that by him, and he's like, "Yeah, that could definitely be done. I could see it working." So yes, that's true. You could definitely build a business that's just run by an AI, but it's going to take a lot of trial and error. We're probably 2 or 3 years early for that.
Well, some people think that some of the blogs that we have nowadays are all run by.
I could see some of the blogs being AI generated.
Yeah.
That's possible. Sure.
YouTube videos maybe too now.
I- I'm thinking of something even more complex where it's like Amazon side hustle type thing. I think that's possible.
Selling Amazon
Oh yeah, I think that's possible.
plugged into, like,
But give me like a month of just locking myself in my room, I could probably pull that off. But all right. So main point I want to make is LMs are like steel beams. And it's not because jet fuel can't melt them. It's because
what do you mean by that?
it's because LLMs are great building blocks for other things. So just like with steel beams, we discovered steel beams. We built skyscrapers, we built bridges, built huge destroyer ships, we built tanks. All these things we built with them. The underlying platform material was steel beams. And I feel that LLMs fundamentally are similar in that way, in that they're a building block that helps you do a lot of other interesting things. They go much farther beyond chatbots. They kind of, the mainstream right now kind of has you believing they're chatbots. They're fundamentally not. They're fundamentally much more useful applied to other applications. And I think that where we stand right now, Marty Bent commented on it, because we have Bitcoin, because we have these AI capabilities, we will have the ability to create AI specialists that are good at particular jobs, and they'll be able to hire each other to accomplish those jobs. And I think that that's a massive win for the individual. It's a massive win for Bitcoin. It's a massive win for humanity if it's done correctly. And so that's what we're passionate about, and that's what we're trying to build at CASCDR. So I'll do a quick demo of some of what we have here. So this is our main site. This is cascadr.xyz. And you can see here we have numerous applications. We built a bunch of different modules. One very simple one is ChatGPT. I asked, can jet fuel melt steel beams? And it gave me like some like ChatGPT like Democrat answer. But I'm anonymous. That's the interesting thing about this. Because I paid with Bitcoin, I'm anonymous, and they can't identify me. So that's like a good basic building block. But we also use it in other applications. I have this interface builder. So this is how we can chain different services together. So this particular one can scan an RSS feed and pull the last episode. So it can pull the last TFTC episode or whatever it happens to be.
This is a new one you created, right?
Yeah, it's relatively new. And so with this, I can pull the transcript, and I have like word level transcripts. I don't know. I guess if I search Bitcoin, I can find all the instances of them mentioning Bitcoin. So that's interesting. By itself, is it that interesting? Maybe not. But there's a lot of other applications I built on top of this. So this is our service where you can actually search any podcast you want. I can go to Cars podcast back there. I can pull, the last few episodes and analyze them. I can go listen to them on Fountain, see if this works well, right? I can go in and listen to Car, and I can analyze it. So I'm not going to run that now because it takes a few seconds, but this is one of the last TFTC episodes where he sits with Peter Quinones, who's a known libertarian, and they discuss how the temperature politically in the room is kind of shifting, and there's a swing back away from the COVID stuff, more towards the America First type stuff. Pulls the top quotes, writes a conclusion. So this kind of demonstrates the reason why we call it CASCDR is because when you take one system and feed it forward into another system, that's called a cascade. And so we want to be able to build AI services that cascade with each other and aren't necessarily run by the same person. We want to empower people from all over the world to contribute their talents to make good AI services and good AI agents that are good at particular things. And I think that's how we beat these centralized services, because I fundamentally don't believe it's possible for these monoliths to build the best all-in-one AI. It's going to be a bunch of different people building their own secret sauce and interoperating, and Bitcoin is the glue that holds that together. So to me, that's why I'm hopeful and why I think there's a massive opportunity that we have to seize right now, before it's too late and before we fall into some other darker systems. Any questions? I have more demos, but I think I'm going to skip those. But yeah, so I appreciate your time, everyone. This is our. Yeah. So support us. Use our site, CASCDR.xyz. So that's the one all the way on the left. It really help us if you subscribe to our credit card membership. So if you just sign up, you'll get unlimited use. Every tool I just showed you, you're going to get it. Unlimited usage. I don't know how much longer we're going to keep this up. It's a pretty good deal right now. Probably that price is going to have to go up in the long run. But for now, you get great value. You get all the privacy from ChatGPT. You get to analyze these podcasts. We're shipping new things weekly. So you get early access to that and get unlimited access to that. And then the last is, if you want to make a $5 donation, I have a bunch of CASCDR t-shirts here with me. We'll give you one of those. Happy to do that. Appreciate your support. But thanks to Jason. Thanks to everyone for being here. Jason puts in tons of work to this. I know it can probably at times feel thankless, but Jason, we really appreciate you pushing things forward and doing this for your community. Yeah.
And school us on this new technology. It's amazing stuff. So
yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Thank you everyone for coming.
If it's not too late, do you think you could tell us about maybe your favorite apps within the CASCDR?
Sure. You know what? I'll go back to
field,
Sharon.
Right?
Yeah, I'll go back to Sharon.
Is it $9.99 to access any of them?
Yeah, per month. Yeah, and you access everything. So I think it's a pretty good deal. So here's a funny one. I call it the SAT Stacker Assistant. So you snap a photo of anything, it'll tell you how much it's worth in Bitcoin, how much you can sell it for before the massive bull run. So I come in here, I upload a picture. I think I just uploaded a picture of my DeWalt cordless drill. So it'll come in, give you the description of the item, the rationale for how much it's worth. It says, okay, it's worth $125, which is 202,000 sats. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So just by picture?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, just by picture.
Just by picture, yep. So I mean, the fundamentals of this are, everything's fractal. Everything builds up to another thing. Like when I was showing you, this image, it's actually a pretty good example of that. See how each layer, so the first layer is one big blob, right? The next layer is kind of breaking down little pixel parts. See how the second layer is kind of breaking it down. The third layer is breaking it down into strokes. So it knows the circle is one stroke and then the slash is one stroke. right? And like everything we do is like made up of like subcomponents like that. And so if we take that approach to AI, we take that approach to designing modules, then we can build amazing things, and we can be really good at designing this one little thing and then plug it into this huge machine payable web network with Bitcoin. And now other people can invent other things that enhance our thing, and we all win. And that's what I want to see happen.
So you have some closed LLMs and some open LLMs that you're using here, right?
Yeah, so currently, publicly, we're only really offering the ChatGPT one. I have not focused as much on using different LLMs because I'm more interested in building on top of LLMs and finding where the interfaces will be. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do more like function calling agents and such. And so because of that, we're going to be moving more in the direction of the open source stuff. And that will come out probably in the next 6 weeks or so.
So you were developing your own the AI.
I'm not developing my own models. It's very cumbersome to do so. You know, at this point, I'm basically offering to be a layer between you and those other models, and I'm using, generally speaking, renting out time on somebody else's stuff to, you know, create these systems. But over time, we'll get there. It's just
utilizing the AI platforms.
right, and then Bitcoin to shield your privacy. And then, you know, we've had it, and I wrote a blog post about this on Stacker News about how YouTube tried to shut us down, and they're successful for now, but they won't be long term, because either we'll do it without them or we'll find a way around and just get through it. I mean, fundamentally speaking, you know, I'm Car knows I'm there. I'm working every day to make this thing better, and we're gonna find ways to circumvent censorship or anybody that wants to stop us.
So in order to make this one like a kind of dedicated to Bitcoin, right? You still need to kind of train your AI.
Yeah, so a lot of the techniques we're using, are you familiar with RAG? Do you know what RAG is? It's called runtime augmented generation. So a lot of what we're doing, like when I demonstrated this one's not so much. When I demonstrated this one, what it did was it pulled in the entire transcript of a podcast episode and then used that at runtime to augment the ChatGPT base model. So there's a base model that has a basic understanding of human language, and then there's this domain specific information, which is the transcript, and it analyzes that information at runtime so that you don't have to train technically. It's not truly training, it's feeding this as context so that the LLM can make a meaningful observation and summary of that podcast.
So like I can give a perfect example, like before Cascadr and stuff like this, I would have to listen to a podcast and then write down notes while I listen to it and then go write an article around it. Now I can just run Cascadr, get a summary from it, and then build an article around what the summary is, if that makes sense, and then just fill it my opinion.
Right.
It's a very much more seamless. What used to take me 7-8 hours now takes like an hour and a half now, which it only just happened, I would say, in the last 18 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, go ahead.
Can I, for example, create a capture in a different language for the videos using Cascadr?
When you say capture, captions, somebody asked for that today. I can do it. I'm spread thin. I don't have much funding, but that will get there. If I keep hearing that feedback, the second time today I heard that actually. Keon was pushing me for that earlier, so maybe he pushed me over there.
Bitcoin content in all languages.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's all that stuff. I mean, on my slides I said translation, right? That's a big one. I actually didn't press hard on this. We were working with a guy from Ethiopia in Kenya. It was Kenya. Sorry, it's Kenya. Pleblab, our buddy Hezron. But I asked him, would this be useful if I could translate it to Swahili? And I had a module that did it. I never actually shipped it. And he was like, he's like, yeah, that's interesting, but we speak English pretty good here, so it doesn't matter. So then I just like kind of pushed it to the side, but like I know how to do it. Like I'll ship it. Yeah, if you see value in it, then I'll ship it.
What you could do with the first example, the image one, is if you're in a store, you're trying to check if you're getting a good price on this item, take a picture of it.
Okay, and then
Same
search
exact
Google
photo,
effectively.
right?
Yeah.
But and then you compare like, oh, this is 125 for this drill. But
I've heard of people using that to track like inflation in countries. They're like, they'll pay people in Bitcoin to go take pictures of items. It's kind of interesting use case. Yeah.
Jim, do you think you ever get to a point, and this is like a crazy idea, but do you think you ever get to a point where you could take a podcast, translate it to like Spanish, and then make an audio?
That's exactly
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
what you said? Okay.
No.
I could do
What
that.
What I wanted to ask next, I was thinking about the movies, honestly.
Oh,
Not about the podcast, but about the movies.
oh,
So
yeah.
you would get translation through the AI, and then you would
Create
voice it,
voices.
and
Yeah.
then we would match the voice with the.
We'll do it in Russian if you help me like QA test it, make sure it's not like stupid bad, then yeah.
But
Yeah.
could you do that? Like, go-
Yeah, I think it's possible because a lot of what we're talking about, like when we're talking about going to this magical space where, language is math, it doesn't matter what language it is. As long as you have the basic, you can almost think of it as like a road system. If I have a road system to get from English to like the base layer of meaning, which is languageless, and I have a road to get from Russian to that, then that means that I can traverse either or in any other direction, right? Like that was one of the big breakthroughs was they were trying to figure out translation and they were creating specific models for English to Russian and Russian to English and Russian to French and French to English, right? But instead they're like there's this base layer of meaning and then there's all these different roads to get in and out. So as long as we have, I think they're called decoders and encoders and decoders. As long as we can encode in any language and decode in any language, it doesn't matter. And so that was one of the big original use cases of this type of technology.
But I guess it's like just a longer teaching process for that AI, right?
To do what?
To understand the language better, right? Because it's like
Yeah, I would
levels
suppose-
of quality, right?
I suppose some languages would be better than others because fundamentally speaking, keep in mind that these are trained on internet-based systems. So if
There's some remote village in like Mexico.
right, there's some languages that are just not on the internet, right? But I would guess languages like Russian and English, the big ones, pretty good.
Can you save the state in between the sessions for what it has learned?
For privacy reasons, I try not to. Over time, we're trying to improve that part of the user experience in terms of just saving your job, saving your history.
Well, no, but you could like say, okay, like if I click a thing and then say I would like to save the state, you could just give me a GUID that's a long ass key, whatever.
Yep.
And then if I
Well, I could just save it in your browser, technically.
Or that too, yeah.
I do some of that. One of our services, I didn't show it. We have a stable diffusion. So if I say a dog with a top,
You always say that.
dog with a
You
top
say
hat.
something.
That makes me laugh every time. I gotta have fun, and I'm like nerding out all the time. But like once this comes back, it'll take maybe like a minute to generate, and then once it generates, it'll come back and it'll populate this side panel with my previous job history. Let me.
Okay.
It's gonna take a while, but that type of UX is okay.
There
So
it is.
see how it's here, and if I want to retreat.
Poodle with a dog tongue.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Anyway. Anyway, all right. So that's that. Car, you want me to plug Pleb TV now?
I can plug it if you want.
All right, yeah.
Let's do it.
Come over.
I'm Car from Club Lab. This is where the guy works at, and we help Bitcoin companies come from incubation to where Jim is at, like wizard level. So we launched something called Pleb TV, which is our version of fixing the problem that Jim described about centralization. So the world is centralizing and YouTube is becoming a little bit more
territorial with what you post on there, and I just fundamentally believe that at some point they're going to rug pull a lot of Bitcoin videos and stuff like that, just because this information is going to be far too valuable for the public. So we've been around since 2021. We're located downtown Austin in the financial district, and we have a ton of content that we've put together. Stuff like what you saw here with Jim presenting. There's developer workshops, a ton of stuff if you want to learn about Lightning and all sorts of things, like all the latest. There's some builder workshops there too. We even do some funny videos from time to time. There's some hackathon projects. It's mostly a lot of Bitcoin content right now. And then over time, we will be adding more content creators. Maybe if Jason wants to start posting his Round Rock videos in here, we can add those in here too. We also have some premium content, so you can purchase a video using Zaprise, and right now we're only taking sats only, and you can pay in fiat. But you like this video, if you want to learn more about Nostr, you can click that. You can click that button, and then it'll take you to another QR code here, and then you just select. Like if you want to play a credit card, you can, and that's like I think that's whatever Visa or something like that. Let's see if it loads.
Or you just pay in sats.
Or you can just pay in sats. Yeah, you can just pay in sats. So there's that. You want to pay $4.89, or you can just pay with Lightning. And so it's very simple. I think the goal with Pleb TV is, huh?
Yeah, pay it.
Oh yeah. So the goal with Pleb TV is to really do two things. It's to become more self-sovereign for Pleb Lab. So a lot of, because we've been around for a long time. We have over 258 titles. So a lot of hard work has been put into that, not only from the Pleb Lab side, but from a lot of these developers that have given their time and resources to create those things. And so we want to make sure that those videos live on, because I think they're beneficial to the vast majority of people. And then over time, we'll be adding more wholesome content. Like right now, like yesterday, we went to Johnny Ochoa's sign bar and like filmed some stuff. So we're going to try to do some more wholesome content. I grew up in the 90s. I don't know if anybody grew up in the 1990s or remembers the 90s, but the 90s was an amazing time.
It's on me, it's not on him. My phone's camera is messed up. So.
The 90s was an amazing time, and it had like Full House, there's like Nickelodeon, there's like amazing programming. The goal is to like get it to a point where we can really make some like wholesome content again, and a lot of stuff that like just good values. And I think right now when you go on the internet or you watch YouTube, it's just a lot of it's just very toxic and just very doomer, and it just focuses on the wrong things. So we just want to make content like that. And then but yeah, are you gonna give it a shot?
I'll try.
It should work. I mean, it's Zaprise. But yeah, so you can pay it. Mostly all the videos right now are free, so you can go on plebtv.com and watch stuff. People like Jim talk about all sorts of things.
Very cool.
Yeah, but we'll release later along down the road, maybe like next year. I'll say, so you pay it with Bitcoin, and then it goes back to Pleb TV, and then so now if you wanted to learn about Nostr, you just click this and it starts loading, and then the course comes up. And then this is one of the guys that works at Pleb Lab, so he should be here next month.
Yeah, this is Topher. He's going to be talking about Bit Escrow next month. So come.
Talk about what?
Bit Escrow, his project, which is a tool that I don't want to describe because I don't want to mess it up, but it essentially uses escrow services on top of Bitcoin. So that can be used for a lot of different things.
Smart contracts.
Smart contracts.
So really simple
Yeah.
example.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because we're at the Nashville conference. There was a guy that I know, it's a real estate guy, when he got into software development, and now he's going to build an application that uses Bit Escrow's platform to make escrow deals more simple. Now you don't have an escrow agent. It's just, I have this Bitcoin, this is my collateral. Yeah, I'm really going to buy the house. Okay, the payment went through.
Yeah.
You can have your collateral.
And if it doesn't go through, then
that type of stuff, it just makes things cheaper and easier and more efficient. Using Bitcoin is some of the best collateral you can possibly have.
Yeah, so there's courses up there from him, and we'll be adding some more courses next week. We should have some super testnet courses on there, and so we'll be adding more premium content on there. But for now, like if you want to go learn about, I don't know. Let's see here. Like
You have some 3D printing stuff on there as well?
Yeah. So if you wanted to learn about ChatGPT hacking, this is one that Topher did. Right now we're using a lot of video stuff from YouTube, but we're going to move over to our own servers here in the coming months. But you can click on this. There's no ads or anything. And then he's over there talking about all the stuff that Jim was going over too. So it's a free resource right now. And I would say definitely use it. It's called plebtv.com.